On Christmas, she tossed my gift in the trash. I don't want handmade junk. 3 days later, she saw it in a gallery window with a $10,000 price tag. That Christmas morning, my girlfriend Olivia tossed something I'd spent 3 months crafting into the trash, calling it junk. She didn't even bother to open it all the way. Neither of us knew she was also throwing away our entire relationship, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. The air was filled with the scent of pine and cinnamon from the candles I'd lit, the tree lights twinkling softly. I'd made her favorite eggs Benedict, trying to create that perfect holiday magic. I was 37 then, and my hands, calloused and strong, worked with wood, not the lumber from Lowe's, but rare, museum-quality hardwoods, intricate hand-carved inlays. This wasn't a hobby, it was 15 years of mastering a craft, creating pieces that cost thousands and took hundreds of hours. And I was damn good at it. Olivia and I had been together for 3 years. She worked in finance, lived that corporate life with a fancy apartment and expensive tastes. She never truly understood what I did. To her, working with your hands was what you did if you couldn't land a real job. The little comments always stung. When her friends asked about me, she'd say I was figuring things out or between projects, making it sound like I was unemployed, never an artist or a craftsman. I let it slide because I thought I loved her, or maybe I was just used to feeling like my work wasn't quite enough because it didn't come with a corporate salary. For Christmas, I wanted something special, something she couldn't buy in any store. I poured 3 months into a jewelry box made from walnut and maple, 2 of the most beautiful woods. Every surface had hand-carved details, inlays that shimmered with the light. I even designed hidden compartments with magnetic locks, the kind of flawless craftsmanship you'd see in a high-end gallery, easily worth 5 figures. Inside the main secret compartment, I placed a delicate silver and moonstone pendant. I imagined her delight. I worked late into the nights, my hands raw, convinced it was all worth it. Then, Christmas morning arrived. I handed her the wrapped box, my heart pounding. Her face fell immediately. I saw that flicker of disappointment, like a child expecting a PlayStation and getting socks. She picked up the jewelry box like it was something from a thrift store, turning it over in her hands, not even looking closely enough to see the perfect grain, the invisible joints, the intricate inlay work. She asked if it was handmade and why it wasn't from Cartier. Her voice had this cutting edge, as if I'd personally offended her by not spending enough money. The hours, the skill, none of it mattered, only the brand name on a box. I tried to explain, told her about the months of work, the thought, the secret compartments she hadn't found yet, the special something hidden inside. She wasn't listening. She just stood up, walked into the kitchen, and I heard the trash can lid open, then close. That hollow thud echoed in my head. I sat there, trying to process it, not really believing what had just happened. Then, from the other room, I heard her laughing on the phone. She told whoever was on the other end I'd given her a wooden craft project for Christmas, like something from a high school shop class. Then she said it, I don't want handmade junk. That word, junk, after 3 months, hundreds of hours, a piece of my soul carved into wood. It hit different. Something broke inside me then, quietly, like a thread snapping. I didn't yell or argue. What was the point? She'd made herself clear. I just walked into the kitchen, pulled the jewelry box out of the trash, wiping off the coffee grounds. It still smelled faintly of cinnamon from the candles. The wood was cool and solid in my hands, more real than anything Olivia had said to me in months. I rewrapped it, put it in my car, and drove straight to the Aspen Gallery in the city center. Brenda, the owner, knew my work. I'd sold a few smaller pieces through her before. When I walked in, she saw something was wrong. I probably looked like hell. I handed her the box. She unwrapped it carefully, her hands moving slowly over the surface, feeling the grain, the inlays, the joints, the way a true craftsman examines another's work. Then she found the hidden compartment, the one Olivia never bothered to look for, opened it, and saw the pendant. Her eyes went wide. She called it museum-level work, not just a jewelry box, but an art piece, a complete story. She said she needed to call Daniel, an independent appraiser she often worked with for high-end estate sales. Daniel arrived an hour later and spent 20 minutes with the box, silent. He examined it from every angle, opened and closed compartments, felt its weight and balance. Finally, he looked at Brenda and said it could sell for $12,000, maybe $15,000, with the right buyer. Brenda nodded, thought for a moment, and told me she wanted to price it at $10,500 for her winter solstice collection. She explained that pricing it slightly below Daniel's estimate would create urgency while still reflecting its true value, and we'd split it 60/40, with me getting the 60%. I just stood there, trying to process it all. $10,500 for the junk Olivia threw in the trash, for the gift she didn't even fully open, for the pendant she never saw. Brenda must have seen my face, because she put her hand on my arm and said, "Whoever didn't appreciate this doesn't deserve your work." I just nodded, unable to speak. 3 days later, the jewelry box was front and center in the gallery window, a spotlight on it, professional photos highlighting every detail. A placard read luxury holiday art piece with the price, $10,500. It was right there on the main street for everyone to see. I didn't tell Olivia, didn't send her a picture. I just let fate do its thing. 3 days after that, Olivia saw it. Brenda told me about it later. Olivia was walking back from lunch with coworkers, probably discussing some corporate deal, and passed the Aspen Gallery. She stopped dead, Brenda said, like she'd seen a ghost. She stood there, staring at the window for a solid 5 minutes. Brenda watched her face cycle through confusion, recognition, shock, then something like panic. Olivia pressed her face to the glass, looking at the inlays, the wood grain, and then she saw the price tag. $10,500. Brenda said Olivia's hand went to her mouth. She just shook her head, disbelieving, before finally seeing the pendant inside, the one she never bothered to find, hidden in the compartment she never opened because she was too busy being disappointed. My phone blew up 20 minutes later. Text after text, all caps, all frantic. She wanted to know what her jewelry box was doing in a gallery window. Why it had that price tag. Why I never told her it was worth that much. She claimed it was hers, that I'd given it to her for Christmas, that I had no right to sell it. I watched the messages pile up for a while. There was something deeply satisfying about knowing she finally understood what she'd thrown away. When I finally replied, I kept it simple and cold, the handmade junk found someone who appreciates it. That evening, she showed up at my apartment. I could hear her heels clicking down the hallway, that aggressive walk she did when she was angry. She knocked, then pushed past me without an invitation. She started yelling immediately, demanding to know what I was thinking, why I'd put her gift in a gallery, saying I'd embarrassed her. I just stood there, letting her vent, letting her burn through the anger, because I knew what was coming next. Sure enough, after about 5 minutes, her tone shifted. She stopped mid-sentence, took a breath, and suddenly her voice got softer. She said maybe she'd overreacted on Christmas, that she didn't really mean what she said, that the jewelry box was actually beautiful now that she thought about it. I almost laughed. The switch was so obvious, so calculated. She wasn't sorry about hurting me, she was sorry about losing out on $10,000. She sat on my couch like she belonged there, crossed her legs, and tried to smile. That smile she used when she wanted something. She started talking about our 3 years together, how she'd supported my work even when it wasn't making money, how she'd let me use her apartment as a workspace. Then she said the thing I knew was coming, I think I deserve a share of the sale. Don't you? She tried to make it sound reasonable, logical. Said that, technically, it had been a gift to her, so legally she might have a claim. And besides, we were a team. The fact that she'd already considered the legal angle, had prepared this whole speech, told me everything. I explained to her, very calmly, that she'd thrown it away. Called it junk. She forfeited any claim the moment it hit the bottom of that trash can. I told her the jewelry box was mine now, my work, my art, and whatever happened with it was my business. She didn't like that answer. Her face hardened, and she went back to being angry. Said I was petty and vindictive, punishing her for one mistake. One mistake, as if those 3 years of little comments and put-downs didn't matter, as if Christmas morning was just a tiny slip-up. I didn't argue. I just asked her to leave. After a few more minutes of trying to guilt me, she finally did. The jewelry box sold 2 days later to a private collector who specialized in artisan furniture and functional art. He paid the full asking price, $10,500, without even trying to negotiate. Brenda called me that afternoon, excitement in her voice. The check would be ready in a few days. The collector wanted to know if I had more pieces. I told her I'd need some time to create new work, but yes, I had ideas. She said he was already interested in commissioning something custom, maybe a desk or a display cabinet, for around $12,000. $12,000 for a single commission. More than I'd made in the last 6 months combined. My cut from the jewelry box sale was $6,300 after the gallery took their 40%. It was the most money I'd ever made from a single piece. I deposited the check, and for the first time in years, I didn't have to worry about rent, or materials, or whether I could afford to keep doing what I loved. A few days after the sale, Olivia texted me again, needing to talk, wanting to meet for coffee. I ignored it. She texted again the next day, saying she thought we should pause the relationship, that she needed space to think. I knew what she was doing. Knew she expected me to panic, to beg her not to leave, to promise I'd change. Instead, I just replied with one word, okay. That wasn't the response she wanted. The next text came fast, asking if that was all I had to say, if I didn't want to fight for us. I didn't respond. For the next week, she kept trying, texting, calling. I watched it happen from a distance, like someone else's drama. Then she showed up at my apartment again, but this time she wasn't angry, she was crying. She'd been thinking about everything, realized she'd made a mistake, taken me for granted. She wanted to try again, said she'd changed, that she understood now what my work meant to me. She was saying all the right things, hitting all the emotional notes. If this had been a month earlier, I might have believed her. But I asked her one question: if the jewelry box had sold for $50 instead of $10,000, would you be here right now? She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. I saw the truth in her eyes before she even tried to lie. She stammered something about how that wasn't the point, how it was about us and our relationship. But we both knew it was exactly the point. She didn't care about me, or my work, or the gift I'd tried to give her. She cared about what it was worth, about being associated with success instead of what she saw as failure. I told her we were done, really done, and she needed to leave. She stood there for a moment, trying to decide whether to cry harder or get angry. She chose angry. Said I was making a huge mistake, throwing away something great, that I'd regret this when I was alone and struggling again. I closed the door while she was still talking. Over the next few weeks, things started changing fast. The collector's commission came through, $12,000 for a custom display cabinet with glass shelving and hidden LED lighting. Brenda introduced me to 2 other galleries that wanted to carry my work. An arts and culture magazine did a piece on local artisans making museum-quality functional art, and somehow I ended up in it, with a full-page photo of the jewelry box and a quote about craftsmanship becoming a lost art. My phone started ringing with inquiries, people wanting custom pieces, galleries wanting to meet, interior designers asking about my availability. For the first time in my career, I had more work than I could handle. I started looking at studio spaces, small places where I could work and display pieces. I found one in an old Soho Arts District warehouse that was being converted into artist lofts. The rent was more than I'd ever paid, but with commissions coming in and a waiting list forming, I could actually afford it. 2 months after the breakup, I signed the lease on my studio space, setting up what would become my first real workshop and gallery combined. It was bigger than I needed, but I had plans, commissions lined up. For the first time, I could see a future doing what I loved without constantly worrying about money. I spent weeks getting the space ready, building workbenches, installing proper lighting, setting up a small display area. Brenda helped me connect with other artists in the building. There was this incredible creative energy, like everyone was supporting each other. The magazine article brought more attention than I expected. My website, which had been practically dead for years, suddenly got serious traffic. People emailed about commissions, asking about prices. I was getting requests for everything from jewelry boxes to dining room tables, and I had to start turning people down or pushing timelines out 6 months because I couldn't keep up. That's when Sarah came into the picture. She was a marketing consultant specializing in artists and small creative businesses, and she reached out after seeing the magazine article. She loved my work and thought I was seriously undercharging, that I needed better presentation and a real strategy for growth. We met for coffee. I expected some corporate pitch about social media metrics and brand synergy, but instead, she just asked me about my process, what inspired me, why I chose wood. She got it, in a way Olivia never did. She understood the work itself was the point, not just the money it could make. We started working together, and she completely transformed how I presented myself. She redid my website, making it professional with high-quality photos, descriptions that made the work sound as special as it was. She set up an Instagram, taught me how to document my process, showing the hours, the planning, the mistakes, the problem-solving. She connected me with a photographer specializing in artisan work, and we did a whole shoot. Within a month, my following went from basically zero to over 5,000 people, half of them serious collectors and interior designers. Sarah also helped me prepare for my studio opening. I'd planned a small thing, just friends and people from the building, but she convinced me to make it an actual event. She reached out to local art blogs, invited journalists from the magazine, made sure other galleries knew about it, even got a local wine bar to sponsor drinks. The night of the opening, I was nervous as hell, worried nobody would show up. But within the first hour, the place was packed. Collectors, other artists, magazine folks, even a few interior designers who'd driven from out of town. Brenda came, bringing some of her clients. I sold 3 pieces that night, including a walnut writing desk with secret compartments I'd just finished that morning, which went for $8,000. Olivia showed up, too, which I didn't expect. She stood outside for a while. I could see her through the window, just watching the crowd, the success, everything she said would never happen. She looked different, tired, maybe, or less put together, like she hadn't been sleeping well. She didn't come in, didn't try to talk to me. She just stood there for about 10 minutes, then left. Part of me felt a pang of something, but mostly I just felt nothing. She was part of a different life, a version of myself that didn't exist anymore. Seeing her was like looking at an old photograph of someone you used to know. Sarah saw her, too, and asked if I was okay. I realized I was more than okay. Honestly, I was genuinely happy for the first time in years. Sarah and I started spending more time together outside of work. It happened gradually, naturally, without any of the pressure or judgment that had defined my relationship with Olivia. We'd meet for coffee to discuss marketing strategy and end up talking for hours about art, life, what truly mattered. She'd come by the studio sometimes just to watch me work, said she found the process meditative, the way the wood changed under my hands. She'd sit quietly in the corner, reading or sketching, while I carved and sanded. One day, I made her a small wooden pendant, nothing elaborate, just a simple piece of cherry wood shaped like a leaf with a leather cord. I gave it to her almost as a joke, told her it was payment for all her help. She actually teared up. She said it was the most thoughtful gift anyone had ever given her. That she'd treasure it forever. She wore it every single day after that. The contrast wasn't lost on me. Olivia had thrown away a museum-quality piece worth thousands because it didn't come in a Cartier box, and Sarah cherished a $20 pendant because of what it meant, and the fact that I'd made it specifically for her. Sarah asked me once why I worked with wood instead of something easier, more profitable, like metalwork or sculpture. I told her the truth, would had a memory, that every piece told a story through its grain, its flaws, the way it had grown. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen from Olivia, like she actually understood, and said that's exactly why my work mattered. That in a world of mass-produced garbage designed to fall apart, I was making things that would outlive all of us. She understood that what I did wasn't just about making furniture or boxes, it was about creating something permanent, something real, something that connected people to the natural world and to the human hands that shaped it. 6 months after my studio opened, I had a waiting list of clients stretching into the next year, 3 galleries carrying my work regularly, and enough commissions to keep me busy and profitable indefinitely. I hired an assistant for basic work, sanding, finishing, material prep, while I focused on design and the detailed carving that made each piece unique. Sarah's marketing had turned my craft into a sustainable business, without changing what made the work special in the first place, without pushing me to mass produce or cut corners. We'd started dating officially by then, though it felt like we'd been together much longer, like we'd skipped all the awkward early relationship stuff and gone straight to being partners who truly understood each other. I made Sarah a jewelry box for her birthday, spent 2 months on it, from figured maple with ebony inlays that looked like branches. It had the same hidden compartments as the one I'd made for Olivia, but this one felt completely different while I was making it, like joy instead of obligation, like I was creating something for someone who would actually appreciate every detail. When I gave it to her, she opened every compartment carefully, taking her time, and found the little treasures I'd hidden inside: a ticket stub from a museum we'd visited, a dried flower from a walk, a small sketch she'd made of my hands while I was working. She cried, told me she'd never received anything so beautiful. And I believed her, because I could see that genuine appreciation in her face for the work and the thought behind it. Olivia tried to reach out one more time, a long email about how she'd been wrong, how she'd realized what she lost, how she wanted another chance to prove she could be different. I read it once and deleted it. She'd had her chance, hundreds of them over 3 years, and she'd spent all of them making me feel like I wasn't enough, like my work didn't matter, like I should be grateful she put up with my little hobby. Sarah never made me feel that way. Never once suggested what I did was anything less than important and meaningful. She saw value where Olivia saw junk. Saw an artist where Olivia saw a failed corporate employee. Saw a future where Olivia saw a waste of time and potential. Looking back now, that Christmas morning when Olivia threw my work in the trash was the best thing that could have happened to me. It forced me to stop accepting being treated like I didn't matter. Forced me to put my work out there for people who would actually appreciate it. And ultimately, it led me to someone who saw me for who I actually was, instead of who she wanted me to be. Olivia lost me the moment she threw that jewelry box away, but she didn't just lose a boyfriend. She lost someone who would have made her life more beautiful, more meaningful, more real. Sarah didn't just help me build a business. She helped me build a life worth living, one where my work mattered, and I mattered. And that's worth more than any price tag could ever show. What do you think about this story?